Hey, if you don't watch all the way to the end, that's on you, not me. I got some awesome information to share with you guys. I don't even know if I should have put it out there. It's like dangerous to have this information out there. Is what it feels like. I got some super cool stuff. Richard's coming out with super cool tweets. If you haven't seen them, they're very recent. I'm feeling bullish. Not saying like buy right now, but I'm thinking like for pulsechain launch, pulsex. I'm gonna go over some of the like a next cycle hex prediction that's by dollar cost and slightly richer. That's all gonna be in this video. And if you stay to the end, I'm gonna go over some potential awesome stuff the community can do on testnet so we can test a certain theory before we go to mainnet. If this video gets big enough in the community and we all follow it, we may actually be able to test something on testnet as a community and see how we can transition it to mainnet. If this strategy works, we could see the most insane price appreciation thing ever in history. First things first, I made a tweet the other day where I actually wrote it all in my special Telegram group. I have a Telegram channel and a Telegram group, and this is the one where people can talk in. It's t.me/pulse theory. And I wrote it all up in there. But then I decided, it was such a good write up, I'll just post it to Twitter, and people really liked it. So if you want to read it, check out you can either slowly pause the video or you can join the Telegram and then you can read it. And I'll show you guys, there's actually like a cool way in Telegram. All right, so once you're in the Telegram, if you click this at the top, search, it brings up this search box. And then you just click this person, and then you're able to search for any certain person. You can just type in my name once you do that. And then you're able to search every post that I made in that Telegram. And so you can sort by, yesterday when I started making all these, game theory posts, and you can kind of get up to date on what the potential is for this pulsex thing. Okay. Basically, I give a rundown on what pulse liquidity is going to actually feel like in reality whenever it launches as it stands. And so I go over that. Basically, the liquidity in pulse chain for pulse itself is going to almost exactly mirror what we have for Ethereum indexes right now. And so it's going to be very thick order books coin wise. So the ratios between Pulse to other PRC20s is very, 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 very similar to ETH to its ERC20s in the liquidity of the DEXs currently. And so it's going to be just as hard to move it over there on Pulse Chain as it is on Ethereum, except for a caveat. If you go through all the stuff that I was typing about in the Telegram, ETH actually has a lot more liquidity than just on DEXs, right? Because DEXs are relatively new and there was tons of liquidity before DEXs even came out for Ethereum. Where's all that liquidity? It's off-chain. It's on centralized exchanges, or it's held by like OTC desks or something like that. And so there's around, last time I checked, 1% of Ethereum in the DEXs of like Uniswap, SushiSwap, and like spread across DEXs. And then there's 11% of ETH supply in centralized exchanges. And so ETH is actually way more liquid than Pulse Chain will be in the grander sense. But in the DEXs and the ratios, which is what we will have, it's going to be the same as it is on Ethereum. People thinking that they're going to be able to get tons of Pulse really cheap is it's actually going to be, or at least it's going to be very thick order books, and it's going to be hard to move the price as much as like something that doesn't have tons of liquidity. Whenever USDC from Ethereum comes over, that's going to change it up a bit. It's going to really, we're going to figure out what the USD, like the real USD prices of Pulse and PulseX. But like all these other ratios of PRC20 to Pulse, those are going to be just as hard to move as the ones on Ethereum. I go over the details and also speculation on stable coins and how most people are just going to be dumping them into getting as much Pulse and PulseX and HEX and plus their derivatives as people can get, because they're the most likely to succeed on the chain, most likely to get adoption, at least early on. Like, sure, you might do a long-term play and get P-Link or something if you think if you have insider information and you think they're gonna come on later and everybody dumps it because other people don't think so. But you do, and it's like an asymmetrical bet play. If you just put a little bit in at like the super bottom, maybe it does like a 1000x from being way sold off if the adoption comes. But most people are going to rush to the things that they know and love already: Pulse, PulseX, HEX derivatives, and HEX itself. I'm not going to go over the whole post. You guys can check it out. Give me your opinions. Everyone is freaking loving it. You know, when the hair's up, the good alpha's coming. Now I'm going to show you guys this awesome video by Dollar Cost. Check him out. Awesome guy. Super cool. Can't wait to see him in Vegas. All right, I'm just going to play this video for you guys. It's a prediction he basically shared with Richard, and Richard really liked it.
Ballpark us a HEX price next bull market. Bless us, HEX Jesus. All right, I'll do it. So there is a price that I told Richard that he was like, I like the sound of that. Right? So HEX went to 56 cents, which was a 10,000x. I told Richard, yo, why can't we go to $5.56? Why can't we go 100,000x? He was like, yo, I like that. That sounds nice. 100,000x? I like that. Shoo! I can't even say it like he said it. Like it was so beautiful. I was like, yo, we went to 56 cents. Why can't we go to $5.56? Why can't we go to 100,000x? I like the sound of that. I like how that rolls off the tongue. HEX did 100,000x. I like how that sounds. I like what that sounds like. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh, guys. How sick is that? HEX at $5.56 in the next bull run. Ooh boy. Getting under 5-cent HEX. Whoa. Amazing. Imagine being able to brag about 100,000x and X. Dude, crypto Twitter is going to hate us so much. So Richard tweeted out, when Bitcoin finally does find its bottom, I won't even buy it. I'll buy something better. Richard, I called the top on the day, heart. Dude, Richard saying he's not buying the Bitcoin bottom as like a Bitcoin OG from first quarter 2011. That guy's not buying Bitcoin at the lows. He's buying something else. People take notice of these actions. Like, people aren't like, oh, Richard doesn't buy Bitcoin, who cares? Like, that's a kind of a big deal for an OG who's been there since the beginning, was part of the S2F movement. Like, this guy is basically saying, like, either, you know, it's not saying he's gonna buy HEX or something. Maybe it could be meaning ETH. I think he keeps it ambiguous on purpose for security reasons. You couldn't be like, I'm gonna buy hex.com. Like, he can't say stuff like that. But he also talks about how Ethereum just outperforms, so maybe he'll get Ethereum. Maybe he'll get something else that he likes. So that's pretty awesome. Richard calls the top on the day, isn't even going to buy the bottom when it comes in for Bitcoin, buying something else. What do you think he's going to buy? And what do you think is going to launch in a few months, which might be towards the end, towards the bottom? Wonder what he'll buy with millions and millions and billions of dollars. I don't know. Maybe you guys will comment down below. Maybe you have an idea. Now, I made this post as well, which is still blowing up because I did it like late last night, so like most people didn't see it yet. So if you know how liquidity pools work, if we as a community decide, like as the pulsex community, we just agreed to only put in $1 million worth of pulsex liquidity out there in the pulsex DEX, there is an entity, the platform itself will still buy into that no matter the price of pulsex. Pulsex could go 1000x and the platform itself will continue buying it. It doesn't care. It doesn't have emotions. It doesn't have remorse. It doesn't have regret. It doesn't have feelings. The platform just buys pulsex based on the volume of the entire DEX. So people buying and trading any token on the DEX, the most liquid DEX on pulsechain, likely to be the most liquid forever on pulsechain. Because like look at Uniswap on Ethereum. Hasn't been dethroned. It's like 80% or 70% of the market share on Ethereum, and 83% of DeFi users have used Uniswap. It's like, all right, we understand there's huge value in decentralized exchanges, and you get to own a piece of the revenue share of the ecosystem, because how else are we going to trade trustlessly in these systems? It's through DEXs. You like have to use a DEX if you want to maintain that ethos of why crypto was invented. Your keys, your coins. You're not giving up your ownership of your stuff in order to hope to get a little bit of yield, and then the middleman doesn't give you your money back. Celsius, Luna, Rect. PulseX is just, if there's $1 million of liquidity, that's it in PulseX, and there's $1 billion of volume across the whole DEX, people buying and selling everything else, you know, that should be around $600,000 to like $700,000 worth of buy pressure. And so since there's only like $1 million, it basically 4x's the price every time. Like every day, as long as we keep removing liquidity after, like if the liquidity keeps going up, we have to keep bringing it down to $1 million total, even though that price of pulsex is skyrocketing and less 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 of it is for sale in the market. The only way to get it is if you're a sacrificer or if you buy it on the market. So if you're choosing to put it up as liquidity, you're choosing to sell the asset that has the potential to do 4x every single day if the community sticks to this $1 million liquidity position. Why would you sell that? Why would you sell something that can 4x in perpetuity every single day? Like, as long as we keep it at this, we're essentially vampiring every single other token in the system. Every token becomes a reflection token, if you know what that is, on trades that always pays a fee that buys pulsex. And our token would be 4xing forever. And that's on $1 billion volume day. If you have more volume, you just get more buy pressure. Oh, and also the bot coins are then just burnt. It's bought by the platform and then removed forever. It's not sent to an address that you don't have any expectations of. It's actually removed. It will never ever come back. If you sell your coins, you might be permanently out because you might have a hard time getting back into something that has the potential to 4x every day. It's really hard to beat something that 4x's every day. Like, how do you outpace that to like get back in and get more? This is if nobody buys pulsex, guys. That, like, if everybody was like, what's pulsex? We just there's only $1 million of liquidity for it. Okay, all right, nobody buy it. All right, it's 4xing every day. People are just buying everything else on the DEX. Okay, that just pushes up the price of that coin 4x each day. And that's if nobody buys it. If people are like buying it as well, you can easily see the price just like because the thing is, like, people aren't going to want to buy that much when the liquidity is so low, but we can just allow the bot to be doing the constant buying of the exorbitant price while we can sell into the liquidity with, like, if you want like a couple, maybe you can get a couple 100,000 out with like 1 to 2% slippage. Seems pretty good to me. Like, do people really need to pull out their whole stack because they're up 10x? Like, you're going to pull out everything and just be out forever? I think people like that we know it's a long-term game now, and so you're very averse to selling your coins in the earliest of days, right? If you sold Bitcoin like 10 years ago or 11 years ago at the very, very beginning, you're just out forever. You're never going to get that amount of Bitcoin again. Like, you never, because nothing outperformed Bitcoin. You can't make up those missed returns, basically. And so I think we might have the same issue with pulsex, if you want to call it an issue. It's like, oh no, I sold and I'll never get my position back. I call it Richard Hart's rarest coin because why would you want to sell this asset? And it's not that hard to just sit not in liquidity pools, because like obviously there's going to be incentive token to people who provide pulse and pulsex liquidity, right? So you're like, oh well, people are going to FOMO into that, like on testnet. Like, there's like $1 billion of liquidity for pulsex, and it's like no one's really going to play it like that, I'm hoping, where you just dump your whole load in there and then slowly you just lose your pulsex over time, because it's likely to appreciate from the platform constantly gaining adoption and stuff like that. But it will just take a longer time. Eventually everyone just gets bought out, and then the people who never ever provide liquidity kind of just own the pulsex and they get to experience the gains. I think eventually people will realize that you don't really want to provide liquidity for pulsex because you end up just losing your pulsex over time. I'm really looking forward to how this plays out. We may be able to do this on testnet, guys, if we all stick together as a community and we go in. Hopefully everyone still has control of like whatever testnet stuff they were doing. Go in there and remove all your pulsex liquidity that you can. And what might actually be easier, instead of doing it on this current testnet, is if we have a version 3 testnet come out, we should all band together and like not provide any pulsex liquidity. If we all just say like, we're just not going to, then we can see what happens potentially at launch if we all band together. I think we can do it. I think there's potential to at least get it really low, maybe only like 5 million liquidity, maybe only 10 million. And then we're still getting like huge gains every day. And that's if nobody buys, guys. What? Yes, if nobody buys, it can still go up. That's pretty crazy. Programmed to pump, actually. Like, we thought we couldn't program buying, but we kind of found a way to. It's almost like pulsex it's like the Visa MasterCard of this ecosystem, because you kind of just, you take from everything else. Like, everyone else has to, I mean, they're already paying the trading fee anyway. It's just that instead of someone providing liquidity getting some of that reward, it just goes to pulsex. And so it's like a Visa MasterCard used a percentage of their fees they generate to only buy up their stock. So like if they did stock buybacks and then removed them from supply, deleted them, that's kind of like what pulsex is. Ooh, oh my goodness. Oh, I'm so excited. If you don't provide liquidity for pulsex, you can still make trustless yield in a different token by putting it in a pool. So there's these pools on pulsex. There's not any right now. That's why more people are just in the other pools. That's why there's so much liquidity over here. There's just too much liquidity because also on testnet, nobody's earning anything in the segregated pools that are just for pulsex holders. If you own pulsex, you're able to stake, and there will be several of these where tons of tokens are going to be chosen to be given out to pulsex stakers. And so all you do is, it's just like HEX. You basically stake your pulsex. You're at no risk of losing it other than normal contract risk, but I'm sure Richard's team's got that covered. It's basically all Uniswap code anyway, so it's all audited out the yin yang. You'll just be earning this other token, which means, oh, the yield I'm getting isn't even the same token that I'm using to get the yield, and so you don't even have to push the price of the thing that you like so much down. You can sell something else. You basically just get these free extra tokens for being an early investor and holding pulsex and owning a part of the ecosystem that gets constantly bought up and, you know, gives you extra special dividends. So you get price appreciation in pulsex, and you get extra yield that's not even in your own native token, which is a good thing, so that you can sell something else down. Doesn't hurt your price. I think that's a pretty good option. There's a lot of liquidity at pulsex, way too much. I think people in testnet, they were just like, oh, I'm gonna take my whole stack and go at like some early bad ratio, and then it kind of stuck these ratios together on testnet. And then there's also just not much usage on testnet, so there's not tons of volume. I think as a community, if there's a testnet v3, we should all try not to provide no pulsex liquidity. I know we're testing things, and some people are just going to test and not care. And same with mainnet. Not everyone's going to hear this message, but it's crazy that the potential of pulsex is ingrained in it so deeply. I think people will realize that as pulsex gets constantly bought up and stuff, like, you're not going to want to provide liquidity because you're just going to be selling your pulsex, and then you're like, oh, now I've lost. Probably should have just bought some instead. A lot of people are like, well, people are going to switch all their pulsex for pulse. And then it's like, okay, if you guys do that, it's going to burn tons of pulsex. Whenever you sell your pulsex for pulse, it burns the pulsex, you know, just to trade the little percent. You don't need a lot of pulse to make transactions on pulsechain, because it's made to be so abundant that it's always going to be cheap, pretty much. Until we get like an insane amount of users, then maybe we'll scale up and make it able to accommodate even more people, so the prices don't get too crazy. Feel free to join my Telegram group. I will probably make it private in the future, because I try to keep it as intelligent conversation as possible, and only, you know, if people come in there just for normal support, that's not what it's for. It's not like, oh, my wallet's hacked, please help. I would prefer if people would go to like pulsechain.com or HEX security for that. This is more for game theory and the real, you know, alpha that comes up every once in a while. Feel free to join that. Follow me on Twitter so you can get all these awesome updates. So twitter.com/K4K crypto. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on all my socials. I have all my links in my Twitter, and you can check it down below. There's deals in the description if you guys want discounts or something, or just if you want to help out the channel at no extra cost. There are referral links for getting your like hardware wallets, because everybody should have a hardware wallet. So if you use those links, it does help the channel, and getting hardware wallets is awesome anyway. It doesn't cost you any extra. I really appreciate it, guys. If you guys have any questions or any comments down below, if you think this is like way not possible or something, or you want to share your opinions, feel free to join the Telegram and then ask me, or we can talk about it. Thanks for watching, guys. I think I covered everything I wanted to, but there's so many more things being worked on too. I wish I could share them, you know, ahead of time, but I want to get them done and then I'll share them with you guys. So stay tuned. There's always going to be more awesome stuff coming up. Looking forward to seeing everybody in Vegas. Peace out.